going on, Wolfpack Nation? We're back here with Dan Caro. I'm so sorry. I'm horrible at names. But from covering the Virginia Tech perspective here for episode 2 of our breakdown for this Thursday night's matchup with Virginia Tech at Carter Finley Stadium. Episode 1, we just kind of talked a little bit about Virginia Tech and, where they've been, where they're at, and kind of where they're going. And, we throw out some fun, information about, Coastal and Atlantic divisions going away. But in this episode, we really want to talk about the matchup, because really that's what we're here about, is just to kind of break this down and kind of give our thoughts on how this thing's going to shake out for State. Dan, so you kind of alluded with the last couple minutes of the last episode, your thoughts on how the game's going to go. And we'll kind of just sum it up that you thought our defense was going to be kind of the tipping point for this game, minus whoever was at quarterback. Obviously, we know that's going to be Jack Chambers moving forward. But just give me your thoughts on why you think, from what you know of NC State, and obviously you know your squad pretty well, but why you think it's going to kind of shake out the way it's going to.
I mean, the way I feel like it's like there's one huge mismatch in the game, which is Virginia Tech's offense against NC State's defense. Yeah. So NC State has a top 25 defense in the country. Virginia Tech is one of the worst FBS offenses in the nation. And as far as Power 5, I can't remember the exact stat, but like using like advanced metrics, out of Power 5 teams, they rank 66th out of 66 in terms of offensive Power 5 teams. So as in, like, I don't think NC State fans have too much to worry about the Virginia Tech offense, especially going up against a defense like NC State's. So that's the big mismatch in the game to me. Like, I do think the Virginia Tech defense can probably hold its own against NC State's offense, but like that mismatch between NC State's defense and Virginia Tech's offense, like that's going to come into play at some point during the game. It's going to be a lot for Virginia Tech to overcome.
Yeah. So let's break down. Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead.
That metric you were mentioning, I also saw that but NC State's offense is not far behind. We're like 61 or 62 on that list.
So for us State fans that don't really follow Virginia Tech that much, other than just on the surface, you guys brought in a transfer quarterback from Marshall, Grant Wells. He's your QB1. He's thrown for just over 1,400 yards so far on the season. Your rushing leader is Keyshawn King with 259 yards. Your receiving is Caleb Smith with 428. So you're right. Offensively, points per game, you guys are running 12th of the league out of 14 teams at just over 19 points a game. Here's a fun stat. We give up 16.9 points a game, to your point just a few minutes ago. So that would indicate too that it's going to be tough to score on this team. What are you seeing, like for Tech to have a chance in this game? What are they going to have to do efficiently on offense to kind of help put the State's defense at bay?
So for Virginia Tech to have a chance, they're basically going to have to use the game plan they used against Boston College. So if your listeners don't know, Virginia Tech beat Boston College in the second game of the season, 27-10 at home in Blacksburg. Like basically what happened that night is like the Boston College, his first possession got intercepted. Virginia Tech got a short field. They were able to score on a short field. They kept the game pretty low scoring. They were able to take advantage of a couple like short field opportunities that they got, which is how they got to 27 points. They ran the ball a lot, and like it was enough. Like scoring 27 was enough to get a win. They were able to keep Boston College to 10, and that's how they won. If Virginia Tech wants to win at NC State, I would expect like something really similar. Defense would have to force some turnovers. They would have to get some short fields. They'd have to be able to capitalize on those short fields, and then they'd have to like find a way to effectively run the ball and try to shorten the game. And like that's really the only path to victory I can see for Virginia Tech this week.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I can honestly see State doing the same exact thing on the other side of the ball.
That sounds like what we need to do.
Yeah, I think that was kind of our strategy going in to Syracuse. The first half, we didn't really throw the ball at all. Really, I think maybe 4 or 5 times. And then the second half, we opened it up because of necessity, because we were behind in that game. So, but yeah, on your offense, I would tend to think that you guys run the ball better than you throw the ball. Is that a true statement?
That was a really tough one to say. Give me 1 second.
Well, I mean, I have Grant Wells' stats here, and he's throwing at almost 60%, which isn't bad, but it's only at 6 yards a clip. So it looks like a lot of like short dink and dunks, low percentage high percentage throws. I don't really, his long of the season is 43. So he's got 7 interceptions and he's been sacked 13 times. So, I mean, that screams a very conservative offense to me.
So what I would say there is, like, we definitely pass better than we run, and I think that that's a product that our offensive line is better at pass blocking than run blocking. We have major issues with run blocking. I'm not sure why, because it's largely the same offensive line we had last year, but they were able to run the ball last year. This new scheme, new offensive line system, they haven't gotten it down yet, or they've really struggled with it. That's not to say our passing game is good. It is not good. It is just slightly better than our run game.
Sure. The lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're rushing, Keyshawn King, like I said, he's averaging almost 6 yards a clip, which is good. I mean, that's a good number.
That's really good.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a long of 65 but he's only got 2 touchdowns. So, it seems to be like, Grant Wells has 3 touchdowns, rushing. So it really, I don't know. It's like, well, doesn't seem like you have a lot of touchdowns anyway. So he's right there in the mix. But I mean, like, to your point earlier, I think you're going to want to run the ball. The State's defense on that side of the ball, rush defense, is really good. So that's going to be a hard thing. The one thing that I'm looking at here is Grant Wells, thankfully, is not a running quarterback, and we have struggled in that department. He's only averaging 2.6 yards a rush, so most of that's probably just running for his life or short yardage type stuff. They haven't asked him to do that, so we are definitely thankful that he's not a dual threat quarterback in those regards.
I'll make one comment there, though. He actually runs pretty well. Like, the thing is that, like, this offense, for some reason, calls a lot of designed runs for him, and the offensive line just can't make any holes for him to run through. So, like, that's why his average is so low. But when on the rare occasion they roll him out of the pocket, he actually can scoop pretty well, and like he can actually, like, pick up chunks of yards. They just don't ask him to do it very much.
Gotcha. Well, that's something that they may end up doing on this game, because State has really struggled for whatever reason spying the quarterback. We struggled week 1 against ECU. We struggled against DJ, against Clemson, and then we struggled last week with Garrett from Syracuse. So
and Jordan Travis.
Yep, that's true. I forgot about that game. He did eat us up for some yards. It's a good point, Michael. So it will be interesting to see what approach Virginia Tech takes on that side of the ball. But we'll flip over, talk offense. State's offensive numbers, points per game, they're right in the middle of the pack, a little bit lower than middle, at 9th at 27.4. But that was mostly with Devin Leary at the helm. If you look at the Florida State and Syracuse game, like we were talking before we went live, I think we're close, if we're not already over the 80-minute clip of going without a touchdown. And so for anyone doing math at home, that's 5.5 quarters that we haven't put the ball in the end zone. Our only points have come courtesy of Chris Dunn, who has just been dynamic and was recently named to the mid-season All-American team. So obviously at this point, he's probably been our offensive MVP, to say the least. But so on that side of the ball, we'll talk a little bit about the defense for you guys. How do you guys stack up? Like would you say your pass defense or your rush defense is probably your stronger suit?
Yeah, so on that side, like they're about this. They're pretty similar. Like it's a pretty balanced defense. Like they stop the run, and they're pretty good against the pass as well. Like I'd say they're pretty equivalent. Like Virginia Tech's defense, like generally speaking, they've played pretty well this year. On the last episode, we talked a little bit about how a couple of games have gotten out of hand late in the game, and the offense has struggled and just been like has left the defense out on the field like way too long.
Yeah.
So I actually think that Virginia Tech's defensive metrics kind of get skewed like worse than they actually are, just because like late in games, like they've gotten blown out because the offensives left them on the field all night. But yeah, like generally speaking, Virginia Tech has a pretty good defense. I do not think it's as good as NC State, so I definitely give the nod to NC State there, but they can definitely hold their own, like both in terms of stopping the run and defending the pass.
Yeah, speaking of that, so you're right there. They're right in the middle of the pack. No pun intended. Going 133.9 yards rushing. That's seventh. And then they're eighth in pass defense at giving up 224 yards. So, again, right in the middle. Conversely, State is at 188.4 for passing. And then there's third in the league at rush defense at 122.4. So, obviously, definitely better than Tech's averages in both of those categories. So something we'll definitely have to give for Tech to be able to win this game. But I agree. I definitely give the nod to us on defense. Michael, would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to at this point. But I was looking at the numbers, and early in the season, Virginia Tech, especially was pretty good defensive numbers. I think through the first 4 or 5 games, they were towards the top of the conference. But obviously, getting into conference play, that's dwindled a little bit. But I do think that, like Dan, you were saying, that Virginia Tech, that's how they've built their program mostly on that defense, and I think I think Brett Pry will get it there eventually.
Speaking of defense, Dan, I know Bud Foster had the whole lunch pail thing. Do they still carry that on even though he's not there, or do they kind of retire that once he left the program?
The story's going to sound crazy to you, but I'll tell you anyway. And I think this went unnoticed by a lot of Virginia Tech fans. For the last 2 years of Justin Fuente, they actually got rid of the lunch pail. Like they actually
really
removed it. Like they were like, oh, that's Bud Foster's thing, so we're going to do away with the lunch pail. And I didn't know that they had like actually gotten rid of it because they just didn't talk about it. It just went away.
Right.
One thing that Brent Pry made a focus of this season was to bring the lunch pail back, which I was excited about. But one thing that happened in the last 2 weeks is that Brent Pry basically said, you guys aren't playing well enough to deserve the lunch pail, so I'm going to take it away from you guys until you earn it back, which I think is kind of interesting, but I like it. I'm like,
that's
the
good.
lunch pail's not given to you. You have to earn it. So.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
That's a Coach K move. He would take away the Duke jerseys in practice and just make them wear regular T-shirts until he felt they earned it back.
I support that. I also, too, if I remember, I think Brent Pry coached under Bud Foster, so that might be part of the reason why he brought the lunch pail back. Am I right in that? I thought I read that like years ago. He coached at Tech.
Yeah, well, he was a graduate assistant under Bud Foster in like the mid-'90s.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought was cool is like when he got hired, I mean, in the offseason, he did all the right things. Like,
sure.
One of the first things he did, like on social media, they were like, oh, the lunch pail's back. And like they brought the lunch pail back. I was like, great first move.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It's the little things though, right?
Yeah.
It's the little things that win the fan base back. Yeah. Yeah, I know he went on a big and we'll get back to the game here in a second, but I know he went on a big whirlwind tour. He came over here to Manassas to one of the breweries, and they, the Hokie Club hosted him. So I know they had him running all over the state just trying to make appearances and drum up support. But I definitely think he's doing it the right way, and it's going to take time, and hopefully the fan base gives him that time. But getting back to the game a little bit, we kind of touched a little bit on Virginia Tech's defense. Now let's talk a little bit about State's offense, and we kind of threw out some stats there a few minutes ago. But look, we probably had a full week knowing that Jack was going to be the quarterback at Syracuse, and we saw what that did, and it had mixed results. I would say I don't think he played poorly in any stretch of the imagination, and he wasn't the reason we lost that game. There was other miscues and just stuff that just happens throughout the game. But he's had a full week of practice on the bye week, and he's going to have 2 or 3 days. Obviously, you're not going to get much installed here this week with it being a short week. But yeah, we know he's the guy going forward, and I think we're going to see a little bit different of a playbook that he's going to be able to have open to him. Obviously, with the extra time. Michael, what are kind of your thoughts? Game 2.5, if you will, for Jack Chambers. What are your expectations coming forward on this game?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I didn't think he played bad at all against Syracuse. There was just a lot of other errors and other aspects of the game, but I'm hopeful that, like you said, with the bye week, with the additional practices, he'll be more comfortable. And Tim Beck will be more comfortable calling more plays for him. I think we saw that in 2020 with when Leary got hurt that year.
Yeah, with Hockman.
And Bailey Hockman came in that first game against UNC after that injury. He did not play well.
Right.
And then the following week against Miami, even though we lost against Miami, we put up 41 points. So the offense was a little better. So I'm hoping that follows that scheme.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment too, and let's not forget there was a lot of injuries and folks that didn't play in that Syracuse game that we expect back. We won't go into all the names here, but there's significant players on the offensive side, which is what we need. Defensive, we're okay on injuries, but that leads me to my next question for you, Dan. Is how are you guys injury front wise? Are you guys fairly healthy? Obviously, coming into game 7, 8 of the season. There's going to be bumps and bruises and, your typical mid-season, attrition, if you will. But kind of give me a perspective, if you can, on the injury front for you guys.
I'd say reasonably healthy. Like, there's 2 major injuries that we need to keep an eye on. Like, one of our top corners, Dorian Strong, we're trying to get him back for this game. Like, we're not sure if he's going to be back or not. Maybe the bye week gave him enough time to get back, so it'd be really great to have him back because he really boosts that defense. He's one of our lockdown corners, so if we can get him back, it'd be a big help. On the injury front, another one, he's back, but Malachi Thomas has been out most of the year. He's one of our top 2 running backs behind Keyshawn King. So the offense just runs better when he's in the backfield. He's a bigger back than Keyshawn King is. He's one of those running backs that can pick up the short yardage. So just having him in the game makes the offense a little bit more dynamic. You got Keyshawn King, who's kind of our quick scat back, a little bit smaller, and he's kind of our heavier load running back. So having him healthier would definitely help the offense run the ball better. Yeah,
so we're in a very similar spot with Demi Sumo. He's kind of the same how you described your second guy there. Very, very much similar. Runs hard, runs behind his pads, very tough, bruising kind of guy. Whereas Jordan Houston's more of our scat guy. Not to say that he can't pick up the hard yards, but Demi's definitely the bigger guy of that one. So that'll be an interesting two positions, one position on both sides of the ball for both teams. The one thing we really haven't touched on are special teams. Kind of talk to us about your punting and your kicking and your kickoff and your return specialist and all of that. Because you brought it up in episode 1, Beamer ball, right? The first thing that you talk about Virginia Tech is Beamer ball. Even to this day, they made their bread and butter on special teams, whether that was blocking a punt or a field goal or just some kind of big. Every time you turn around, they were making some kind of big play on that side of the ball in that third phase. But just kind of talk to us a little bit. Has that tradition kind of continued now with Brent Pry?
Kind of. So In the Pitt game, they had a bad snap, and Virginia Tech was able to block one for a touchdown. So that was good, but it was mostly on the bad snap, not that Virginia Tech has like elite special teams like they used to.
Sure.
So that was good to see. Return game hasn't been much to speak of. Like they just haven't made any big plays in the return game that I can remember. So like I wouldn't be too worried about Virginia Tech's return game. Kicking game's been pretty good. Like our new kicker, like freshman kicker, he's been pretty good. I think he's only missed one field goal all season, so he's been really solid. Punter is usually really good. He's had a couple of inconsistent games recently. I'm not exactly sure what's been going on with him. Usually he's very good. I'm not sure. Like I don't know what we're gonna get from our punter in the NC State game. He could be awesome or he could be like inconsistent. He just hasn't had the consistency that he had like last year.
Sure. Yeah, you mentioned your kicker, William Ross. He's missed one extra point, but yeah, he's 8 of 9 on his field goal attempts, which is really good. His one misses was in 30 to 39, but he's 5 of 5 of 40 to 49. That's really good. And he has a long of 49. So if the game were to come to that, it seems like you're very confident in that department and that he seems very capable. So I would almost give that a wash. To me, our field goal kicker, obviously Chris Dunn. He's been money. I think he's 5 of 5 on 50 plus this year, which is pretty impressive for a college kicker. Let me just pull it up real quick.
Hasn't missed any.
No, he's one
any distance.
Yeah, he's missed. That's correct. Yeah, he's 14 of 14. He's only 1 of 1 on 50. I'm sorry, but he's 7 of 7. Like I said, he hasn't missed, so he's 7 of 7 on 40 to 49, and he's got a long of 53. So yeah, both kickers are definitely are very dependable, which is what you like to see. Our punting's been very, very solid. The one thing that kind of has been a little inconsistent is Colin Smith on his kickoffs. He's kicked about 2 or 3 out of bounds and some short ones, but it hasn't really bitten us other than kind of field position on the out of bounds one. So I think we'll be fine there. But yeah, all right. So we're that part of the show. Let's talk a little bit about predictions. State comes in, depending on, if you're one of those gambling guys, they're a 13-point favorite coming into this game. I think that's too high, given what our offensive woes have been. So if I were a betting man, and I'm not, I would take Tech in the points. I'm not saying that Tech's going to win the game. I do think that State will win, but I think it's going to be a struggle. I really do, just because we've had problems putting the ball in the end zone. And look, Chris, as good as Chris Dunn has been, he's human. He's bound to miss 1 or 2 and maybe have a bad game. He hasn't missed, and I'm going to keep knocking back there. But so yeah, Dan, you kind of alluded to it earlier, but kind of give us your predictions on how you think this is going to end up on Thursday night.
So low scoring is like, when I'm looking at this game, like it screams low scoring to me.
I agree.
Which ultimately means it's going to end up
right.
48. But
there's going to be like 4 like bombs. There's going to be some blocked punts for touchdowns. Like it's going to be a crazy night. It might even be a full moon. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the over under set at 40, and that number's already pretty low. So
that does seem low, though.
I would say that I might feel comfortable taking the under in this game because I feel pretty strongly it's going to be a low scoring game. I really think that Virginia Tech's going to struggle to score points. I think they're going to be probably below their like yearly average. Like if they can get like anywhere from like 10 to 17, like that probably feels pretty good for them. I think State's going to score anywhere like probably like in the 20s somewhere, probably like 24. So like a 24 to 10 game, something like that. That feels pretty good to me.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten down to my final score prediction, but
no, that's fair. Yeah, at the time of recording, we're recording this on Sunday, so there's some things that obviously that can lead up to that. But yeah, I'm feeling you there, and that 40 does seem low in college football. But given where we've been the last couple of weeks, and you guys are averaging under 19 points a game, I could see it. I definitely think maybe that there's someone's going to get, like you said earlier, like a short field. There's going to be a turnover. Something like that might kind of skew, how it plays out. But Michael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all on a similar page here. I do agree with you, Greg, that I hadn't heard the spread yet, and at 13, that does seem like a lot, just with the issues our offense has. So I'll say 17-10 State.
Yeah. If I'm gonna give one, I'm thinking like 21-17, 24-17, something like that. So that would be right at the over. So, or right at the over under. Obviously if it's 24-17, that just squeaks, a winner. That squeaks a winner. But, yeah, to me, that just is what this game's, and you know what, when I say 21-17, it can go either way. I really feel that way. My confidence meter is not like if you had asked me in the beginning of the season, I'd be like, this is going to be an easy game. But the injury situation on the offense, our inability to score recently drastically changes my output. Again, I'm a homer, so I'm going to still pick State to win. But I don't see it being 13. And again, that was what I saw on ESPN. I don't know what book they use. That's just the one I saw. But again, I think that's a high number. But regardless, it's going to be fun. It's a Thursday night game in Carter Finley. It always is loud. Yeah. We don't have the numbers that Lane Stadium has. And by the way, I consider Lane Stadium one of those SEC light teams, stadiums. It's, really loud, really big. But Carter Finley only having just under 58,000 is deceptively loud. Every opposing coach will tell you that when they come in there. It's a really tough environment. And it's a different beast. I think any stadium is like that too when you play a night game, but it's a different beast at night. And we kind of did a fun thing earlier in the off season about State on Thursday nights, and as of late, we've been really good on Thursday nights. It just seems that we thrive in that environment. But again, the one thing we will say is both teams are coming off of a bye, so there's really no advantage in that regard to either team. So I'm excited for it. It's going to be a good tailgate. Michael, you know where I'm at. You better come see me. My menu is off the charts. And I always tell people I ain't never lost a tailgate. So it may not end up great on the field, but I'm excited. I'm excited for the game. Dan, thank you so much for joining us on these two episodes. We really appreciate you. Again, we'll for any State fans out there, go give Dan a follow. We'll have all of his socials in the description. And any Tech fans, hey, if you're out there watching us, we appreciate you too, man. We appreciate the hate views. We'll take the view any way we can get them. But we hope if any Tech fans are here that you've enjoyed us. We appreciate you. If you want to like and subscribe, we won't be mad at you. But make sure you Tech fans out there, give Dan a follow. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. I know he's doing the yeoman's work for all the Tech, for Tech football and basketball. Dan, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you, man. Anything else you want to plug or put out there before we close?
Just one thing that you said that made me think about it is if your NC State fans want more uncertainty thrown on this game, Tech's best quarter on offense was actually the fourth quarter against Miami, where out of nowhere they threw up 14 points in rapid succession against Miami. And I was like, where the hell did that come from? So
you're saying we have a chance.
So I was like, if you want this game to get even crazier, that's how we ended the last fourth quarter we played. So
that's how you build upon it, though, right? Like you take those positives. So, all right. Well, we wish you no positive mojo come Thursday night. We do wish everyone has a healthy game, but we like to say go Pack. We're going to throw up some Wolves and Wolfpack Nation. Again, make sure you give us a follow on Tuffy Talk. Like and subscribe to the channel. Ring that bell. You don't want to miss any content. Let's put it that way. We got some good stuff coming out here in the next couple of weeks. We just wrapped up some interviews. But yeah, Dan, again, thank you so much. Anytime if you're down in the Raleigh area for a game, you're always welcome to a tailgate. We treat everyone fairly. But yeah. All right, Wolfpack Nation, that'll wrap it up. We'll see you on the next episode of Tuffy Talk. Y'all be good.